So for this next video, I want to show you a few odds and ends that are really going to help you cook in the kitchen. Trying to add these to your collection is going to make it so it's going to be a little easier for you to cook a multitude of things. So I'm going to start with the pans that I have, and these are baking pans. If you're going to start baking things, it's really useful to have these two types of pans. Now again, baking pans, there's literally a million baking pans out there. They come in all different kinds of sizes. You want a small heart, a big heart, a larger, even larger heart. They come in sets of 3 sometimes with different sizes. You can get circles, squares, diamonds, whatever. You know, there's a million different kinds, and there's hundreds of different kinds of bunt pans. You know, there's differences between silicone and metal and nonstick. You can go down a serious rabbit hole when it comes to picking out bakeware for your kitchen. But really, you only need a couple of different pans to get started. And so I'm going to tell you the two that I would absolutely recommend. The first is what they call a half sheet pan in an industrial kitchen. We call this a sheet pan in a home kitchen, or a cookie sheet is another thing you might want to call it. Now, specifically, this is different than some cookie sheets. Some cookie sheets might just be a flat piece with a very small beveled edge. So as you can see, this is about a half an inch worth of metal that's bent up. And so that means that I can cook a brownie in here. I could cook cookies in here as well. So the cookies would lay flat, but I could make like a small sheet cake in here. And that side is really important. So when you're looking for them, go out and find yourself one with a little tiny lip on the side. And these, again, super inexpensive. You can find nonstick or regular. These ones are aluminum. And this one, gosh, look at how old this one is. It's full of carbon, but it still is perfectly fine, and I use it all the time. So go out and find yourself a good half sheet pan. The other one you're going to want to find is a 9 by 13 inch pan. Now this type of pan is specifically made for most recipes in the kitchen. When you go as a home cook and you search for a cake recipe, chances are it's made for a 9 by 13. That's the ratio of ingredients that they've created. So the size of the cake that you pour out of your batter into the cake is going to be 9 by 13. So having one of these on hand is super useful. This one, as you can see, that they're all a standard size. They have they're a lot deeper than the sheet pan, and this one in particular is nonstick. These are, again, relatively inexpensive, and you don't need a ton of these. You don't need 15 of these. I have 3 cookie sheets because I do a lot of rotation, so you can buy a couple of those. But I only own one 9 by 13 inch pan. Couple more things. Go out and find yourself a good cutting board. There's plenty of different kinds of cutting boards out there, and I want to show you a couple of different kinds here that I have. So this is an old plastic one that I had. I've had it for a long time. You can see it's pretty thin. It's definitely a very thin cutting board. It's also a little floppy. I don't normally use this. This is sort of like an emergency cutting board. Since it doesn't take up a lot of space, I leave it in my cutting board area. But it's not a great cutting board, and it's a little flimsy. I personally really like these press board bamboo ones. They're made of press board. As you can see, this one's pretty worn. You can see the cuts and the grooves in it. But the good thing about this particular one is that the grooves aren't very deep. And so it's not going to harbor a lot of bacteria. And I also run these through the dishwasher. And so on the sanitation cycle, it will kill all bacteria that's inside of this. So I don't worry too much about the bacteria, any kind of bacteria in my wood board. If you get a soft wood, you can get a lot deeper grooves, and you might run into issues there. But the way this press board is set, it's really not so bad. So I really do like these bamboo press boards. But go out and find yourself a good cutting board. A good cutting board is going to make it a lot easier for you to do stuff in the kitchen, cut things. So go out and find one of those. Now this, again, this is one I've had for a long time, and I normally have this for when I have people over and we're cutting lemons or limes for drinks or something like that, because it's a relatively small cutting board. Something like this is not recommended. I wouldn't go out and buy something like this. There's no real room on this. If I want to cut an onion on this, and I cut an onion, and let's say the onion takes up this much space, the onion literally takes up the whole board. Where can I move it except for off of it in order to maybe finish cutting. If I cut one half of the onion, I got to set it on my counter over here, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. So this type of cutting board's not recommended. I would definitely find something a little bigger. This is sort of kind of the sweet spot of size here. I don't know the exact dimensions of this, but most cutting boards are about this size, and you want to go with something a little larger. Now for utensils, I'm going to show you two that I find absolutely invaluable. Of course, there's there's spatulas and forks and spoons and ladles and yada yada yada. But there's two different things that I absolutely find invaluable in the kitchen. The first is a good set of tongs. Now again, this set of tongs has lasted me, I want to say 17 or 18 years. This set of tongs is a nice long set of tongs. It's not short. It's not tiny. It also is spring loaded. So that means that I don't have to bother with both opening and closing. I only have to worry about closing it. And I think that helps, that tension allows me to help pick things up and move it around pretty easily. If I would have had to open these up, because there used to be these old, my mom, and I'm sure your family had these, they're the old, you open them up and they're almost like a set of scissors. And those are terrible tongs. They're really bad. They're hard to use. They always come out of alignment. They're just genuinely bad. Throw those directly in the garbage and go out and buy yourself a nice set of tongs. I like these because they're nice and long, and they're not like the barbecue ones. The barbecue ones can get this long. Those are almost unwieldy inside. But something like this, this is about a foot long, and that's kind of the perfect sweet spot. The other tool that I absolutely think is absolutely indispensable, and I have two versions here, and it's a heat-safe spatula. Heat-safe spatulas will always be marked by red somewhere. This one is red on its handle. This one is red on the actual spatula part. But both of these can withstand temperatures of 450 degrees. So that means that I can use them on the stovetop and be able to stir custards, be able to stir butter if I wanted to make a butter sauce, and I don't have to worry about pulling back just a handle and the spatula part is melted into my food. I find that there's almost no reason, I can't think of a single reason why I would buy one that isn't heat safe nowadays. The heat safe ones are pliable, just as pliable as the non-heat safe ones. I like both of these. This one's probably one of my favorites that I use in the kitchen. It's a sturdy handle. It's not too floppy, and I've used it for a long time. It's a really useful tool. You're going to use that quite a bit in the kitchen.